So welcome back to week 3 of our Parenting Today class. We are now on part 4 of our lecture series in week 3. We're going to be discussing childbirth. We're going to start our discussion by talking about vaginal versus cesarean, otherwise known as C-section birth. There's been a steady rise in the use of cesarean births here in the United States. In 1996, 20.7% of all births were via cesarean. In the year 2004, 29.1% of all births were by C-section, and in the year 2009, 32.9% of all births were born or delivered via C-section. So recent data or numbers indicate that C-section rate may be leveling off. The World Health Organization recommends a C-section rate of between 10 to 15%, which the United States is far exceeding, as we've just illustrated. And below 10% and more than 15% has been demonstrated to increase the risk of maternal mortality. So that would be the chances of the mother dying during childbirth or as a result of childbirth. So this right here is a graphic description of the United States cesarean rate from the years 1970 until the years 2010. Vaginal birth has a less risk of infant mortality. The vaginal birth benefits include the release of hormones in the baby that promote lung function. The squeezing through the birth canal also helps to remove fluid from the lungs. The mother is better prepared for breastfeeding, and there is no chance of cutting the baby by accident. In terms of C-sections, there are definitely risks. It is considered general surgery, so of course there is that infection risk. It takes a longer time for mom to heal. It's expensive, so the cost is greater than $15,000 per procedure in the United States. So why do it? There is less pain for the mother than a traditional vaginal birth, during the actual birthing act itself. There is less risk for hypoxia, so there are fewer lawsuits as a result of C-sections. It takes only 20 minutes, and it can be scheduled, so it is something that is rather convenient for mothers that may have, other children at home, other considerations, as well as more convenient for fathers and families overall. So in terms of supporting children's growth, for the remainder of our discussion today, we're going to be talking about children's growth from a biopsychosocial perspective. So we'll start our discussion talking about the major stages of childhood. The first stage is known as infant or infancy, and that is from approximately birth until the age of 2 years of age. Toddlerhood, which lasts from the ages of 2 until the ages of 4. There's that preschooler stage, which begins at the age of 4 and ends approximately at the age of 6. And then school age period, which begins at the age of 6 and extends until approximately 12 years of age. And then there's adolescence, which begins at the age of approximately 12 years of age and extends until that early adulthood period. So what is the role of parents across age groups? The primary role of parents is to ensure health and safety, to promote economic and emotional independence, as well as promote pro-social behaviors and psychological adjustment. So really the number one role of parents is to provide safety. The number one cause of child death in the United States is through accident. So prevention is key. So what examples can you think of prevention? Right? So that lots of those are wearing a helmet, putting a fence around swimming pools. One of the most important things that parents can do is can model safe behavior for children and really secure a safe environment for children. So right here is a graphic description of the leading causes of death among children ages 1 through 14 from the year 2005. We're taking this graphic from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. So as you can see here, that unintentional injury is number 1 on the list for children from the ages of birth through the age of 14. Safety is really important here. So how do we promote safety and health? We can promote it through nutrition. The parents are really a role model here because they provide nutrition, but they also teach children about nutrition. So we do know that poor nutrition is associated with poor physical health, which most likely can manifest as obesity in the United States. Poor nutrition is also associated with poor cognition as well as a poor nutrition span. Parents can also promote health through exercise. Physical activity promotes better health, better self-esteem and self-image, reduced anxiety and stress. It's strongly correlated with parental activity. Boys statistically are more physically active than girls, and physical fitness overall in the United States statistically has declined in recent years. And children from the years of 6 to 17 should really participate in at least 60 minutes of physical activity every day, although actually only 23% of children do. So a really important consideration that we want to explore, highlight, give attention to is the childhood obesity rates here in the United States. And in the year 2012, more than 1/3 of children and adolescents were overweight or obese. Approximately 17%, or 12.5 million of children and adolescents aged 2 to 19 are obese. And since 1980, childhood obesity has more than doubled in children and quadrupled in adolescents. So significant racial and ethnic disparities in obesity prevalence among U.S. children and adolescents. It's something we really want to consider here. This slide here is a childhood obesity snapshot. It tells us that 1 in 3 children are now considered obese in the United States. The average child now has nearly 20 teaspoons of sugar daily, which is 6 times the recommended amount. 74% of children do not get enough daily exercise in the United States. And these health risks, the obesity really has long-term health risks, which we're going to explore in a few moments here. So when we talk about obesity here, it's really important to look at the question and ask ourselves the question, is it race or is it something else that's contributing to these high obesity rates here in the United States? Hispanic or Latino boys significantly more likely to be obese than non-Hispanic white boys. Non-Hispanic black girls are significantly more likely to be obese than non-Hispanic white girls. So it begs us to ask the question, is this about race or is this about something else? And why should we care about obesity? Well, because there are several long-standing consequences, complications, sequelae of childhood obesity. Some are psychosocial in nature. Obesity is correlated with having poor self-esteem, depression, eating disorders. There are pulmonary complications. Children that have obesity are more likely to suffer from sleep apnea, asthma, exercise intolerance. They're more likely to have gastrointestinal problems, which include but aren't limited to gallstones. There's also different renal complications, musculoskeletal disease, endocrine disorders such as type 2 diabetes, precocious puberty, as well as polycystic ovarian syndrome in girls and hypogonadism in boys. Again, there's lots of negative cardiovascular sequelae that is related to obesity that includes hypertension, hyperlipidemia, chronic inflammation, as well as endothelial dysfunction. So what we do know is that 80% of obese children will go on to become obese adults. There's been lots of public programs here in the United States that have been implemented with the hopes to improve nutrition. In 1946, the National School Lunch Act passed. In 1966, there was the Child Nutrition Act. So this funded the National School Breakfast Program. In the year 2010, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act passed, and that changed nutritional standards to be lower in fat and higher in nutrition, which would include more produce, fresh fruit in the diet. In the year 2012 to 2013, free or reduced lunch for 21.5 million children was awarded. So we see here on this slide It's an implementation of a government program that was designed to decrease obesity and improve health indicators among Native American children here in the United States. There's lots of problems with our school nutrition programs here in the United States. The government pays $2.93 per meal. We do not know that fresh food is expensive. The kitchens are poorly equipped, so it's really easier to use frozen foods as opposed to fresh foods. And the School Nutrition Association gets funding from big corporations like Kraft, ConAgra, and Pepsi, which are not produce companies, right? They're manufacturing processed foods for the most part. Prior to the year 2010, 46% of vegetable servings were French fries, and typical school lunches looked like this. So there's new standards for lunch today. Children, we know, need between 1,200 to 2,000 calories today. That's based on research from the Mayo Clinic. And children who ate school lunches prior to 2010 were 29% more likely to be obese than children who brought their lunch. That's from a New York Times study. So guidelines call for a maximum of 850 calories, which is about half of the recommended daily intake. So here in this slide, we see our new standards for school lunch from the year 2010. As we can see, there's lots of beautiful rainbow colors here, lots of fresh, naturally occurring fruits and vegetables. So how is this new school lunch program received? Well, overall, parents are claiming that their children are being starved, and there's conflicting evidence that children are not eating the healthier options. So Congress right now is trying to delay the implementation of new standards. So the question here, is there something parents should be doing regarding the implementation of new lunch standards? What do you guys think? Are we seeing changes? Well, the literature, the data is showing some mixed results here. From the year 2004 up into the year 2012, the overall childhood obesity rate has remained the same, which is about 17%. The obesity rate for young children has dropped 43% for children in between the ages of 2 to 4, but the adolescent rate has increased. So are children learning healthier habits at a younger age? And if so, should we see a difference in rates as they grow? So the bottom line here, the big takeaway is that no one initiative can really make a difference. We need a prolonged attack. So also, when we talk about promoting health, sleep is a very important health factor. So newborns need approximately 6 to 20 hours a day per sleep. The purpose of sleep is that it regulates metabolism, it consolidates memory and learning. The benefits of sleep is that it increased alertness and attention, better physical health, cognitive and emotional well-being. Look at sleep, it's important to examine the sleep cycles. Stage 1 is what's considered light sleep. It lasts approximately 5 to 10 minutes in typical sleepers. Stage 2 is rapid brain activity called sleep spindles, which is approximately 20 minutes in duration. That's when body temperature and heart rate decrease. Stage 3 in the sleep cycle is a transition from a light to a deep sleep. Stage 4, which is otherwise known as delta sleep, is indicated or evidenced by slow brain waves, approximately 30 minutes. This is where bedwetting, sleepwalking, night terrors tend to happen at this stage of sleep. This right here, brain waves, EEG representations of the different stages of the sleep cycle. The impact of sleep deprivation is significant. Sleep consolidates memories and learning. Sleep deprivation is associated with obesity. Sleep deprivation increases moodiness, increases anxiety, as well as aggression and overall stress. It impairs decision making, and in extreme cases, it reduces physical and emotional pain tolerance, and it can lead to psychosis. So this right here is it's a nice graphical pictorial of what sleep deprivation can feel like. And sleep deprivation has also been used as a form of torture. And this right here, a real extreme example. Can you die from no sleep? And the answer is yes. There is a disease which is incredibly rare, and it's called fatal familial insomnia. It's a neurodegenerative disease that can lead to the inability to fall asleep. And this is someone who died. His name is Michael Cork, sadly died after 6 months of insomnia. I will let you know that fatal familial insomnia is something that is incredibly rare. There are only 40 families documented in the whole history of the world that have actually suffered from this.